At the time, I think that was all just a wild dream. How's it going? I'm Gene. I was a DP at Vice for a few years. Vice had a vibe to it, you know.
What was that vibe?
The vibe is fucking send out a bunch of people who have a little bit of experience, who are passionate, and give them some cameras and see what the fuck comes out the other end. And if it's good, then get them to keep doing it. So when I was younger, we would skip school and go travel about an hour and a half to go to the city to go to this thing called Dangerfield to go get Vice, because we found it once when we were skating. And so we would go to school and it was always like, holy shit, I really, really fucking want to work for this thing. Never ever thought it was possible. I lied a few times when I was in London, said that I worked for them to try and like skip lines and shit, got busted like a dickhead, whatever. Years later, fucking was throwing parties in New York and I would make these weird camera rigs so I could climb up shit and do rigging and still have a camera on me, because we didn't have the money to pay camera crew or whatever. So I was doing that at the same time as like
You were climbing up?
Yeah, because we would have a bunch of shit hanging from the ceiling. I did all the rigging and we have a bunch of like moving stuff around the event. We had zip lines and stuff like that. So I'd always have to be like thing. So I had made this strap camera thing so I could have the camera over my back, and then I'd grab a strap and then kind of pull it so I could like just start filming from wherever I was. But yeah, I was doing the rigging, so I'd have this thing, and we're doing this party in Bed-Stuy at this space near the hospital, actually next to Woodhull, and we were there, and I met this guy, and he was like, oh, I'm like, oh, we're chatting, da da da, and he's like, oh, you want a drink? And I'm like, no, I'll get you guys drinks. This is my party, da da da. So I got him drinks, da da da, chatting, talking to this guy, and I'm real passionate.
So how did you start talking to this person?
Random. Sitting inside the party and random thing. He was with a few people and I was with a few people, and we're all sitting there, and I was just like super passionate about photography. I just got back from Africa or something, taking photos for the first time as a journalist. He's like, yeah, I'd love to take you through Vice. And I was like, you're full of shit. This guy told me, he's like, I'm an executive producer at HBO, and I'm like, give me your email. And he's like, no, you give me yours. And I'm like, you're full of shit. And I really did. He's like, okay. And I'm like, I don't believe it, but I don't care, whatever. And so I gave him my email. I was like, all right, whatever, man. Have a fucking good one. And then he fucking emailed me and he said, come through. I'm like, Monday. He emailed me on Monday. He said, come through on Wednesday. I come through on Wednesday. He literally walks me through the whole office. He meets me to Shane Smith, Sarouche, fucking Abdullah, like all of these people. Like I remember who's like my hero at the time. He did This Is What Winning Looks Like, Ben Anderson. Oh my God, I thought he was like fucking such a like wild character. And introduced me to all like the hosts and producers and all of the who's and what's of whatever, and the line producer, and I started, and then then about a month later they sent me to hostile environment training. I did like, I think
a month after that
meeting, yeah, I got sent to hostile environment training with all the crew to coordinate, and we learned how to handle firearms and do combat first. I did first medic training.
Was this like a general thing? Like,
this was the biggest one they did. This was like, okay, we need to train up our shit. We've had some incidents in the field. This was just after Simon Aronofsky had just been kidnapped. Yeah, I think.
What did you think, like, going into that? Like of course, like you're like a background of like dirt biking and stuff, but
yeah, but no, this. I felt like I've been in so many like chaotic experiences before. I moved out when I was home. I was like 15 and shit. So I was like kind of felt like this was kind of like a responsibility almost. Does that sound like to give this to give like I felt like it was so interesting to hear these people's voices, and I felt and everyone's lets you into their world, right? And so it's like you can paint whatever picture you want. So just kind of start feeling a bit responsible, like, but in a very like, I can make stuff and getting the feedback, and like and getting to see it on the thing that you always dreamed of being it on. It was very motivating for me. So I was like, I will always do the best thing that I can for this, and just try and make it always better, and don't try and get lost in the weeds about how much effort it is, and don't.
So this is once you started going into the field.
Yeah. But like I was pretty. I mean,
can you tell me about like that first like?
The first thing I did
was it different?
On asbestos, and I gave the card to the producer, and I said, please don't put it in your pocket, can I give you a case? He said, I've never had an issue before, and the fucking card corrupted, and I got fired before I even started. So I ended up moving over to Motherboard, and so I'd done this thing with Spike Jones and Danilo Para, and then we kind of had this Motherboard pilot, and so it was on transhumanism. So that was the first like big, I guess, thing I did. I was also on development. I did a bunch of like Taji, who's like one star. Me and him were on this development team where we did experimental stuff for Spike Jones, when he was the creative director. So we did experimental stuff for them for TV and developing shows and stuff. It was a cool place to be.
How does that feel? Like you
I fucking don't know how I got there. Man.
No. How does that feel? Like you get fired on the first from like that part of Vice.
Well.
How do you feel as like a 25-year-old like you got this off?
It's just like, because it felt like there was a boys club, and I felt like I didn't surf, so I didn't feel like I kind of belonged there a little bit, but I've like just loved it so much, and I loved working there, but I was also just like, yeah, just really intense. I'm really intense. So I was just like diving deep into whatever it was and just blinkers on. So it wasn't even really just like, I was just like so just involved in everything that I loved it. Like I loved being in the field, but I went through a couple of hard times and like, yeah, working there and people were really good, and I never, like, it was a pretty like supportive environment for me. I had, like I don't even know that answer at it, but yeah.
But they kicked you off because you got the
I got kicked off. I got kicked off another thing too. Yeah, because I crossed the line when I filmed the pilot of Hamilton's. When I started filming for like the Hamilton's pilot was like a big thing. Like that was like everyone wanted to be on that. That was like.
What is the culture like at that point in Vice?
I mean, it was like there was a supervising director of photography who oversaw all the camera people, and they made the like style guide, right? And so there was these rules. So like, and that basically just meant it just kept it consistent. Don't fucking shoot super wide angle, super close up. When you're doing, make sure you can see both of their eyes from the other shot. Don't cross the line because you don't want two people's the cut to face the same rate. Just it was just a good outline, and like and that was like that was what set the kind of the baseline, for everyone. But you're allowed to break the rules so long as it was motivated. And for B-roll, you do whatever you want. But I was a bit spicy, definitely, and like kind of like wanted to push a bit, and so there was a cultural conflicts. I was definitely like pushing against that a lot of the time.
What was the response to that?
Generally pretty, I mean, if someone you're the boss of, you're telling them what to do, and they're just kind of like, well, I'll do what I want, like, or acting like a little brat. I don't know. I don't think I would like that. But at the same time, I think I was always like, I always had like the intention of like production in my mindset, in like how like the vision of whoever I worked for was who I felt subservient to. So like I felt like the producer or the director or whoever had the vision in the team was the person who actually what I tried to emulate, as opposed to the other guidelines within it, if that makes any sense. I don't know. To get there and still be willing to get there, then you'll be alright. You want to get somewhere and you're unsure, leap of faith, fucking send it. Because if you don't go completely, you're gonna crash into the fucking jump, pretty much. If you fucking panic last second, you just crash and burn, It's like a fucking landing on an aircraft carrier. It's all or nothing. You just like come in and smash into the ground or hit the water, or you land it. There's no other way, It's hard to, it's the only way for anything, right?
Like you mentioned, like being in a different world, like how does that change you? Like how does that affect you like later on?
I don't know. It's just like it gives you a bit of hope, but it also makes you feel angry about a lot of the shit that gets destroyed. You feel pretty helpless sometimes, but you get to see stuff. You get this. It's like sometimes I think honestly that I like getting to see something the last time before it's gone. I really do feel like that sometimes. I'm like,
Just
this
feel like a
fucking-
special
yeah,
feeling
and you're
to
like,
it.
"Oh, fuck, I might be the last person who gets to film this, you know, like a lot of the time, because you might be like,
Yeah.
and especially if it's in like exotic places or like war places, or like, you know, like things change and weather changes or systems change or flooding or whatever can change
Yeah.
entire ecosystems. So it's kind of crazy, and just even the way you navigate, like you gotta like it makes you like you're like, wait, I have to jump off this boat into the water with all my shit in a bag, like 30 feet. What? Okay, all right, and everyone's doing it. You're like, all right, this seems weird. Let's go. You're like, just you know, like, oh, what the fuck are we doing right now? You know?
Yeah.
Like shit like that is kind of like I had a moment in Yemen. We went through this fucking storm. You know, fucking big storm going all night, and then in the morning the sun comes rise, and it's just like, oh wow, we're alright. And then somehow deciphered with the captain what's going on, and he's like, we have no idea where we are. We have to wait till night, and then we were like drifted off course massively, and finally got the engine going after the storm. We'd lost all that water, and you're just like, okay, I'm not dead yet. Like that in that trip was like, okay, these things have been our obstacles, haven't got us yet. What's next? Now, how do we get there? Let's get to this place. All right, cool. Just whatever happens. You just kind of like, if you keep that kind of like momentum and don't, like the worst thing you can do is panic ever, I think. And if you've seen other people panic and you've panicked before, it's kind of like when it's critical and someone's excuse for being more than a dead weight is, it's hard. You see someone else do that with somebody else or something, and you're like, oh shit, I can't ever be like that. You feel responsible for yourself. I do at least. I do. I don't know. I think it's, yeah, you feel responsible for yourself, but you also, because you've done it, you also feel responsible for other people. But at the same time, you're on this like big like fucking pirate ship type thing, just like as the wheels are falling off. All right, let's get that back on. All right, let's keep going. Like we got stuck. You get stuck in places, like these weird fucking places, and so you like, it becomes normal so quickly. We're stuck in this giant like Chinese diplomatic compound in like in Madagascar for like 2 weeks. Felt like, well, we have to go back there like twice and stay there for like 4 or 5 days at a time at the place. It was like surreal. And we're just like, every morning at like 6 a.m, all these like Chinese guys would come out of these like giant like mansions, and we have like these 12-foot high, razor high fences all around us, around this whole ghetto around us. And our like mansions look over these razor wire fences into the hood, and there's all these Chinese guys like running together in the mornings doing these exercises, and they had a brothel on site. It was like they ate.
This exists.
Yeah, and they
This
have like
exists in the
they had
world.
like 30 different types of cigarettes from China, and like they have like holograms and shit on them. And like the food was pretty good. The food was fucking good, and everything was really clean.
Do you ever see shit that you're like, I wish I didn't see on the trip?
Yeah, a little bit. There's a lot of Madagascar, some human trafficking going on with some French businessmen and the younger kind of person, which is really hard to not fucking hurt someone sometimes, but you really have to think, well, it's just going to cause more problems. If I have like a way of helping here somehow, you will. You help where you can, like, but that's just not, because the gangs will get you. You know, like, you got to be conscious of how the economy works, and someone is profiting there. You know.
Yeah, it seems crazy. Like every like situation, you have to be like conscious of like
why, how, what's happening.
what you
here.
say. Like
Yeah.
even like if it's like someone's pointing a gun at you, like you're saying.
How you act is, you think you've got eyes on them, but someone might have eyes on you you have eyes on them.
Yeah.
And then now, who are they?
And they're
Yeah.
reading like
Yeah.
every single thing that you're like, all your like body language and
Yeah,
everything.
and people follow you from the airport and wait until you're parked out the front of like CVS or whatever, and then they just like punch the window and steal whatever they can, generally the cameras and a couple of camera bags, and they chuck it in the car and you're out of there. So many people get robbed like that. So many people at Vice get robbed. So many.
Did you ever have like really like?
Had a lot of close calls, yeah. Just
I-
like flooring it, seeing it about to happen, or hey, let's go. You know, like,
Yeah.
or you know, or you see it about to happen and you just like kind of like distract people or whatever.
I imagine that like background of like racing helps with that.
Yeah, you
You're
got
just,
to
like, always
you
on
see
the edge,
you
like-
see what's ahead. Like I feel like being able to see past just your immediate surroundings and being able to kind of estimate what's happening, like to navigate. You know, like you read cars, right? You
Yeah.
can read like kind of people too. Like, does this guy keep on like looking at you and then looking back at that way and then like on his phone and then
Yeah.
every now and then just kind of like.
Are they slowing down?
Yeah,
and
you
then
like slow
going-
everything down a little bit. Look around. Like, are you getting trapped? Like, does it make sense to be here? Why are they meeting here? Why are they always seem to be checking their phone and answering someone? That like, you know, like are they setting you up right now? Are you meant to be meeting someone else? That's why you fly a drone. If you get there, the best thing to do is fucking first do. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna get the drone up to make sure we can fly here. Just get up and just do a little quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check
Are
out.
you able to turn that off when you're back? Because also how like before, like you mentioned to me, like that you go out to trips like very often and for long periods of time. Right.
It depends. I mean, like sometimes they were back to back. So like you would get this thing or you'd be in the field and you'd go and do this other thing that they called synergy. It's like a synergy. So it was like another story that had another part, another lead or something in the area that you were in. So that they didn't have to send another crew, they would send that crew that's in that area to go and like cover and something else for like Vice or whatever, another channel or something.
How long, when you were working at Vice, like how long were you in the field versus like back home? What was like the?
Sometimes it was like in the middle of like peak. I was probably like back in town for maybe like 2 days every like maybe 10 days. And then sometimes longer, sometimes 3 weeks.
How long does that peak last of like that frequency?
Oh, that went on for a couple of years. Yeah.
How does that work? Like,
You just like pick up, hey, there's this thing.
do you
have
just
those
couch
days?
surf when
Hey,
you're
that's-
back because you're
Hey, no, I had a fucking sick apart. I like at those days. I had like I lived around the corner on McCarran Park. I was ripping it. I was loving it. I was doing ad jobs as well. I had a studio. I was smashing it. Sick. It was fun. It was just like, what's available? Who's going? Where you going? Do this. You know, fly
Yeah.
there. Fucking film this, film that. It was sick. Like you got to do 4 different. You got to do more shit in 1 month than most people got to do in their entire lives. It was really like that. And with like Satanic Temple 1 week, and then another week would be like financial domination, and the next week you'd be at Fermi Lab at a particle accelerator, and then you'd be at a racetrack. You know, like it was fucking everywhere. Or I'd be in labs, like drugs, watching people make illegal drugs, smuggling guns, human trafficking, fucking all of it. It's crazy. Slumlords, you know, absolutely wild.
Did you ever feel like any sort of like negative effects in like your daily life or
No.
like your everyday life after it, or like
Fuck,
before, like while you
I
were
think
in
it
it?
made me grow up a lot.
Faster?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. It
Seeing all the
humbles
shit.
you because you can't really, you can't see all that and not be humbled by it. I don't think, unless you're just a sociopath. But I mean,
Like humbled, like how good.
yeah, how
people
could you
have-
witness all these people's stories that have such shit luck and then be so resilient and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then not be like the Innocence Project stuff is brutal. Like hearing these terrible stories, even Hamilton's talking about people who had been incarcerated because of drugs and their lives ruined because of miscategorization or over aggressive prosecution, or because it was fucking from like donuts, Krispy Kreme and donuts, so they got locked up because the cops didn't know how to use a drug test, or like someone who did like, you know, their brother framed him for like killing and raping their sister-in-law, you know, but it turns out it was them and their dad, you know, but they're like the nicest fucking person on the earth. And you're like, how the fuck does this person not just want to kill everyone? You know, and like you can't. It's hard to go back to your shit and have a temper about something that seems quite trivial in comparison to being falsely accused of being a rapist and being put in jail for like 30 fucking years. Like, but then at the same time, you get to see these like beacons of hope for like technology and like see all these people who really like believe in change. But then at the same, 2 weeks later, you'll be seeing something that like breaks your heart. Like a lot, yeah. There's a lot of times where I think a lot of definitely a lot of people who work there were crying. Like, well, not like weeping, but like have a couple of like having to like think about not being seen that they're like getting affected by what they're seeing. So like
Yeah.
you can hide behind the camera, but you're there. You're very present. I never took my eyes off what I was filming, ever. I always like thought it was the only. If people have enough time to take out of this to give you their trust to tell their story, then you should give them your full attention.
Yeah. Did it ever like break people down where they had to leave Vice, or it's like everyone's there like kind of knows what they're signed up for?
I think a lot of people got burnt out in either drugs, stress, or I think that though I don't necessarily think it was Vice that did this. I think that there was a certain type of personality that gravitated towards that, and I'm not like in a way that like they want to kind of like go in and have experiences and see stuff that isn't what everyone sees, and tell that story in the way that they want to, you know. I don't know.
And there's a lot of those personalities also where
have substance abuse problems,
just like
or
life
just,
abuse, like
yeah, exactly. They're
trying to take a little bit too much.
yeah, sometimes that some people fall through the cracks when shit's spicy, and some people do some really brave shit and fucking no one really knows about it, but but that's also part of it too. It's like, let's fucking go. This is amazing. We get to do this. Like,
Yeah.
let's go do this. And then you're like, also too, like, I have an opportunity to film this. This is what I'm getting paid for, to point my camera at this. I want to make this look fucking incredible. Like, I want more jobs like this. I'm gonna try and make it so that it's impossible for somebody else. I want to make this like the last thing I get to make every fucking time. And I tried, but I admit I started to get jaded for a bit because I was just burnt out. Yeah, and it wasn't just because of Vice; it was just my own shit, you know. But yeah, Vice was fucking, yeah, it was amazing. I did definitely underappreciated it.
Thank you for sick ass stories. Hope you enjoyed.
Happy days.
Happy days.